when I was a kid, and I don't know, maybe when you were a kid too, because I think we were kind of bored. Well, let me rephrase that. Like, I think we were forced to find things that today kids would find very boring. Forced to find things to do that would they find boring. So we would just wander around, hack around. You go out in the forest, you play, you do whatever. You're
Hang out
outside,
at the mall. Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But you're not home. You're not on your phone. You are physically interacting. Of course, teenage pregnancy is probably down nowadays because of people on their phones. But we always found something to do, and like even if it was literally kicking a can down the street, I can remember doing all sorts of like silly little things and goofing around on your bikes and modifying your bikes, and that's not sport. That is getting out. So I don't know what that says about where we're going. I know where we are now, but I want to be hopeful. I know there was some hope too around I'm gonna seem silly here because I don't know the current names, but there was like that Wii thing where you could like play games on your computer.
Yeah. No, we have we've got Nintendo Wii, and we've got Xbox with the Kinect sensor, and those are actually great.
Getting back to the idea of what competitive advantage this gives us as a society, whether it's your city, your community, or broadly, and I'd say more importantly as a country, you have a populace who is much more engaged in sports. You're going to be more energetic. You're going to have fewer health problems. There's less burden on the economy. You've got more energy. You can be more productive. You can be, you'll make more friends. The network effects that come from sport. So many times in my career, I have met very successful people who candidly are not necessarily the smartest people, but they've worked in professional sports or even just at a high level of non-professional before. And those people tend to be very successful in business.
Well, and there's actually a correlation between kind of people who are very successful in sports who then go on to be very successful in life, and it's that competitiveness, right? It's sort of like developing that competitive spirit early on by being engaged in something that is meaningful to you.
It's competitiveness, it's discipline, it's your social network, which you leverage. There is evidence out there to suggest that exercise does actually make you smarter, and
sure.
Right? I've heard it even most simplistically mentioned as, obviously, if you're moving around, the blood circulation is happening more. There's more blood and more oxygen getting to your brain, and you can enrich your brain. It's completely plausible.
Well, and even just those aspects of coordination, like like your brain controls coordination as well as other elements of everything that you do, really, and and getting into a state to be able to do something consistently over and over and over and get better at it is a very transferable skill, right?
So it probably develops patience too, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think there's such a strong argument for this. We've just solved it. I think what you're seeing, high octane friends, is here that we've solved the issue for Canada as how we're going to get another 2 percentage points on our GDP. There you go.
Well, and the interesting thing is it's something that that doesn't necessarily have a partisan spin to it.
What do you do as an adult? How do you? It's harder to do a lot of things as an adult. I don't mean necessarily physically. It's just like with kids, you just plop them into some league. But as an adult, like, how do you do it? Like, if you say, okay, I want to be more active, I want to do sport, I want to play baseball, or I want to do play soccer or whatever. Like, how do you just suddenly do that? Like,
well, yeah, I guess it depends on where you are. Like, I know certainly when I was in college, there were just basically it was either ball hockey or like I forget if it was rollerblade hockey or just like running around with in your shoes hockey in the gym. But I joined that with I don't even know if I went with a couple of friends. I just sort of joined it, and it was great because I met a bunch of new people, and I got to run around and lose lose hockey games.
When you were in Buffalo, or when you?
That was in the University of Buffalo. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Because
that was a lot of fun. And then at MIT, actually, I joined the MIT Masters swim team, and then it was just sort of like, as you were saying, busy. Like it was, I think 6:30 to 8 every morning kind of thing. So then I was up and out, and like I'm not necessarily a morning person, but like getting up, jumping in the pool and swimming a bunch of laps in the morning was a great way to sort of like discipline me to get up and like actually work on my thesis afterwards. So
get the brain chemicals going. And,
yes, yeah. And then even here, I think I joined a couple. I think when I was affiliated with the University of Toronto, I joined some like just summer sort of soccer teams, and it was fun to run around. And I think there certainly are different like things you can do. I think certainly through for Toronto, there's like parks and recreation. I think I can just go on, and for any of the different gyms around town, there will be a list of like sports teams you can just join up with. And I know certainly my neighbor has got a big thing of hockey gear that I see him dragging out to the car every once in a while, and he goes out and still plays hockey with his buddies. And so there are those things there to find it. And then my parents were playing pickleball for the longest time, and that's like the newest craze.
I know I played it a couple of times with my neighbor.
Yeah,
it's fun.
And skateboarding, right? I mean, I think that was a great. I took an entrepreneur. Like it's even there's elements of inventiveness that come in. So like rollerblades were ice skates that you strap some wheels on, right? And I remember we had a entrepreneurship course, and we talked about user entrepreneurship, and so that's where like the person comes up with something, and the skateboard was a user entrepreneurship invention of surfers that didn't it was too cold to surf in the winter or whatever. They strapped some wheels to a board, and now you're surfing on the street. So yeah. So, and
snowboarding and all these other sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's even coming up with creative new ways of maybe adapting the sport to whatever constraints you have.
Hello, good day, high octane friends. Welcome back, or for those of us just joining, welcome. And my friend Trevor McKee and I'm Rob McMullan. And this is, I think, depending on when it's published, this is number 9.
Yep.
Our podcast episodes. And today, inspired by yesterday's win of the American League Championship Series of our native Toronto Blue Jays baseball team, we're going to talk about sports and the importance of sports, more importantly. And there are lots of we believe there are lots of intrinsic benefits to sports. It's not just mere entertainment. But of course, entertainment's important. Like today and last night, the atmosphere in Toronto is electric. People are probably pretty tired, having stayed up a bit late for the game. And some people may be nursing hangovers. But I think, especially in this day and age where there are a lot of return to the office mandates, these are the sorts of things that act as glue, that bind us together, that energize us, especially amid threats from, certain people and states. And so I think this is very good, certainly good for Toronto and by extension Canada, because as some viewers may not know, Canada now only has one Major League Baseball team. We used to have the Expos. By the way, I'm interested. I don't know if you saw this, Trevor, but there is a Netflix expose of sorts, which seems to have hinted at some kind of conspiracy behind why the Montreal Expos left. and we're something sounds something like something malevolent there. So I'm curious about that. But anyway, we only have one team, and it's basically our national team. And we have actually won the World Series a couple of times back in '92 and '93. I was overseas at that time, but I'm looking forward to hopefully doing well and winning in against the LA Dodgers with Shohei Ohtani, no less. Probably the greatest player in baseball. And in fact, I suspect, given how well-rounded he is as a pitcher and a hitter and an outfield, probably the best overall player ever, which is really crazy. What does that say? We can go so many places with this. Sports is exciting. I'm kind of vibrating about this. What's the importance of sports in your mind? Like right off the top of that, Trevor.
Well, to me, it's sort of as you said, it's a community. There's a sense of participating or belonging to a community. So I'm wearing South African rugby shirt. That's the Springbok, and I whenever I go there, I always make sure to get a couple either Springbok or Bafana. Bafana is the soccer team which made FIFA. So so it instantly gives you this sort of connection. Like whenever I see someone walking through the streets wearing a Springbok jersey, I can be like, "Oh, Springboks," and then and then immediately it's like, "Hey, we're from the same place," kind of thing, and certainly growing up in Buffalo in the '90s, was interesting time. Sort of, the most winningest football team in the early first half of the '90s, aside from the one the big game at the end of the season kind of thing. So losing 4 Super Bowls in a row was not the best of times, but it still was something that each of those seasons, the city, which was which is again a Rust Belt sort of city where a lot of people who grow up in Buffalo leave and don't necessarily come back. A lot of people sort of fleeing for the coasts from this former industrial powerhouse that's kind of had some rough times and now is starting to come back as a decent place to live, so it gave Buffalo some hope, and it still does. There still are the Buffalo Bills are doing great once again, it gives the community something to look forward to, something to talk about. That if you don't have it's a great intro. If you don't have anything else to kind of talk to somebody about, you can talk sports. I was at a
Jays. How about those Bills?
How about those Jays? Yeah. No, I was at a conference event last week, and the Jays were playing against and beating the Yankees. And I was watching, and then of course the guy next to me was from New England, and was relishing the fact that some other team was beating the Yankees.
Of course,
it's love or hate, In Boston, I remember when I was there, like people would start Yankees suck chants at the hockey game.
Wow. That's intense. But yeah, this thing about community and how sports brings people together. I wanted to comment a little bit. The Bills are a good example, but of course, so have our Toronto Maple Leafs been. It's like they were the best of times. They were the worst. They were the worst of times. I don't know where that quote comes from.
It's the Tale of Two Cities.
What is it?
Tale of Two Cities.
Is that? It's old.
Yes.
Well, there you go. So, going through these trials, tribulations, victories, near victories, It is. It is.
60 years of drought in the case of the Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Well, it'll happen one day.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And even
Hell
in
will
our
freeze over too.
Is that right? What?
I said hell will freeze over too. Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, they do have flying pigs, at least those generated by AI.
Yes.
But actually,
and real ones, like at the if you went to a Pink Floyd concert, there were real flying pigs.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and it would be nice if all the Pink Floyd members were still around and back together. That's one example. Yes. So music is another one that can create community. But I don't think anything is quite as powerful in creating community as, getting behind your local sports team.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really important. And especially now, I think sports are important also for, building community in-person opportunities to go outside.
Yes.
Well, not just adults, of course, but for children in a day and age where children, we're all worried about young people being addicted to their phones, getting them involved in some kind of sport, particularly team sports, I think is good.
Yeah.
The problem, of course, is that often it can be so expensive, right? Baseball's not really one of those expensive ones, but it's near and dear to Canadians' hearts, of course, typically hockey.
Hockey, yeah.
So expensive.
No, I have a friend who's got 4 kids, and at least 2 of them are in hockey, and it's a full-time job. He's they're driving him here, they're driving him there. I think he's just gone to a tournament in Boston with the kid for hockey specifically. So, and just the equipment and then everything else. And then I think I'm sort of glad my kids didn't express tremendous interest in it. Also, just from the injury perspective, there's so much once you get into kind of the upper leagues and people hitting each other harder. It's there's concussions, there's all of that sort of stuff you have to worry about. So
it's amazing how kids, even when they're nowadays they're 14 years old and they're 6 feet tall,
mm-hmm.
boys and the girls. And my son just played house league hockey, but that was expensive enough. It was I think it was at least $1,000 or a couple $1,000 every year, and of course they grow like mad. You got to get new equipment all the time.
Yeah.
Stupid, but somehow you got to make it work. It's a little harder, I think, sometimes if you're in the city, because when I grew up in the suburbs, people would just play on the streets and play road ball hockey. But sports are important, obviously for your physical health. It's better than sitting in your room and playing a video game. But I think, and sometimes going back a little bit to that financial aspect of sport, how expensive it is. Sometimes, and this may be a little bit controversial, but I think the middle class certainly in the Western world, but probably also in places like, say, Japan and Korea that I'm familiar with, they're kind of squeezed more than others, because if you're really rich, you don't have a problem, right? You can just afford it. And frankly, if you're really, impoverished, there are programs out there that will allow you, what's the Canadian Tire one in Canada that they do?
Or there's Tim's Tots or something. So
there's that. There's another one. Anyway, they donate all sorts of stuff, but there are income cutoffs on that. And if you're in the middle class, you're kind of squeezed out. You can't really afford it. You're doing everything else. So, and that is most of us. The middle class, most of society, and it seems like we are squeezed the most. So it sounds counterintuitive, I think, and people would complain about this who are, of course, really impoverished and struggling. But in some ways, they don't.
Well,
Yeah.
for the, I mean, that I was gonna mention another element of it is the socioeconomic aspect of, if you are, in growing up in a very poor neighborhood or poor family, sometimes sports can be a way out if you have, some genuine talent in a particular sport, or if you just work really, really hard and get good at sports. The number of baseball players that have come from, wherever it is, Dominican Republic or Central America, that were able to kind of make it up through the ranks, and now yeah.
Baseball in particular doesn't usually require a lot of equipment, and I guess,
Exactly. Yeah, baseball, soccer, yeah, yeah.
but hockey, skiing, it's
Mm-hmm.
expensive, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very much reflected in the in who plays hockey,
The
and
demographics, yeah, yeah.
it's all white people,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. I mean, you get a sprinkling of non-white people, but it's pretty much that. I think that's changing a bit now, which is a good thing, but it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know how to solve that. But when I was a kid, and I don't know, maybe when you were a kid too, because I think we were kind of bored.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me rephrase that. Like, I think we were forced to find things that today kids would find very boring. Forced to find things to do that would they find boring. So we would just wander around, hack around. You go out in the forest, you play, you do whatever. You're
Hang out
outside,
at the mall. Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But you're not home. You're not on your phone. You are physically interacting. Of course, teenage pregnancy is probably down nowadays because of people on their phones. But we always found something to do, and even if it was literally kicking a can down the street, I can remember doing all sorts of like silly little things, and goofing around on your bikes and modifying your bikes, and that's not sport. It is getting out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that says about where we're going. I know where we are now, but I want to be hopeful. Do you? I know there was some hope too around I'm gonna seem silly here because I don't know the current names, but there was like that Wii thing where you could like play games on your computer.
Yeah. No, we have, we've got Nintendo Wii, and we've got Xbox with the Kinect sensor, and those are actually great, and actually over COVID in particular, that was a great way of like, or even just in general. I mean, we should most of the time the problem is that like the furniture gets in the way of having a good space to play, particularly when you're like in a tiny, semi-detached in downtown Toronto. But it is great to just be able to kind of move some furniture around, and now you're like jumping through an obstacle course, and you get a workout. It is a not insignificant workout to be like jumping and ducking and whatever you have to do in the Kinect Adventures game. So it is it does help, and then like even Wii Tennis, just at least in terms of like the basic mechanisms of how to play tennis, it's you get a bit of a sense of that. Okay, maybe it's not perfect hand-eye coordination as real tennis would be, but like in the middle of winter in Canada, well, it's a good alternative to dressing up and worrying about slipping on the ice on the on the tennis court kind of thing. So
yeah. I'm thinking about sports and the national advantage, like the national competitive advantage that could confer on a nation if its citizens were more like they were 25 years ago, sort of pre-internet commercialization, where people were out and about a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Here, if in Canada, for example, and just comparing it directly to our friends south of the border, if the Canadian governments, I guess, were to pour more money into investments in making it so that kids develop the love of and actually do sports, such that Canadians in general became a much sportier people. Would that give us a competitive advantage in the world? Like, I mean, economically, I'm guessing it would somehow.
It's gonna have knock-on effects that are beneficial, whether or not it's direct. I mean, like the one of the challenges with sports is it's a power law, right? Very few people benefit greatly, and very many people kind of like don't end up much more than sort of in the amateur league kind of thing. But those people that do still benefit from the exercise. So I mean, in the run-up to the Vancouver Olympics, there was actually a program, the government program by the Canadian government to, like, that was, I forget that it had a catchy term, like, chase the medal or something like that, or go for gold or something. But they had a thing that was, that they had a program specifically to try and get more people, eligible for Winter Olympics competitions specifically. And I think it did quite well. Like, they ended up, I think in the review afterwards, it significantly increased the medal count over what another event might have been, and that was specifically because it was going to be, the Olympics were going to be held here, and and in many times, like, the Olympics is of course the pinnacle of at least amateur sport for many different types of activities, and it's again something that people can inspire younger kids, whether it's Olympics or like Wimbledon. I think we'll often have those on just in the summer in the background when we're on vacation, and and it's great to show swimming, and then I can talk about how I was in swimming in high school, and my brother still swims as part of the master's program, and and I mean I used to I should get back into master swimming, but it's just it's a great way of sort of keeping active, keeping fit, and swimming's an amazing sort of like low impact activity that you can do even if even if you can't run anymore, or that sort of stuff. It's quite very beneficial. So
yeah, well, I'm just thinking as you're saying that, want to pick up on a few things, and we'll come back to them. I'll just list a couple that popped out of me as you said that, but inspiration as a source of inspiration. Mm-hmm. Also, if you're involved in sports as a young person, it seems to me much more likely that later on as an adult, throughout your adult years, you would therefore be more likely to be involved in sports than if you were not involved in sports as a young person, and then suddenly to try and take it up as an adult. I think that's probably very hard. Mm-hmm. It's harder already to come back to it later. So back to the idea of, what effect economically from a competitive advantage standpoint would there be in having a country that was very invested in its citizens and them doing sports, mm-hmm. And, I don't know, some kind of...
It happens just sort of like by nature of geography, right? That in Canada, many of the lakes are still frozen in the winters, and kids get more chances to like practice ice skating up here than they would in Florida, for example. So.
Yeah. But if we don't make it really easy for them, in fact, if we don't, I would argue make it part of the curriculum. Mm-hmm. Curriculum to certainly in elementary and. Yeah. School, and maybe even at the post-secondary level, I really actually think there should be a requirement for you to graduate. There's this a little bit of a tangent, but I think we need to overhaul our educational system in general. Like, I think things like, I think there should be some level of sports all the way through. There should be some level of music all the way through. These are the things that have to get cut, right? Especially candidly with like right-leaning fiscal conservative types, where they like this. this is showing a little bit of my thinking a little bit on that, but like, I think a lot of times their thinking is, okay, nobody wants profligate spending by any government, right? But, show the investment and the ROI. I think the thinking of, trying to make the racehorse go faster by lightening it up by cutting the leg off the horse is really stupid. Things like music and sports tend to get cut. Mm-hmm. I think because we have not really done a very good job at it, would be lovely to have a government that, could do the research and then present the research to Canadians such that we understand like it's really important, and we're going to invest in your kids and sports and things like that, and how that develops your mind, or music. And now, of course, we've got generated by AI, so like people are not even writing anymore. Like we kind of laughed about it, but it's super sad. Like my son is now 20. When he turned 16 and he got his driver's license, was it 16 or 17? Mm-hmm. I can't remember. And we went with him, my wife and I, to the whatever it is, the Department of Transportation Office, Service Ontario, and then he got his license, and he had to sign it, but he never signed his name because he didn't know cursive. Not only did not cursive, he didn't even know it for his thing. So he printed his name, and it looked like a 5-year-old did. Oh my God. It's still there today. It's like it's hilarious, but it's symptomatic of a bigger problem, and that is we're not really teaching them the skills to keep up. And I can see lots of benefits from investing in sports. Like it should not be the case that a kid who wants to go skiing, for example, cannot afford it. Like we should have some kind of public system, almost a public library where we can get sports equipment.
Yeah. Well, there was something like that. There was the Toronto Lending Library that came out of, or the Sharing Depot, I think. And it used to be it was the Toronto Tool Library first, and it was actually just down the street from my place, and it was amazing because I could just like go borrow a power sander or a power washer for like an afternoon, and clear off all the old paint off of my back steps, kind of thing. And then it turned into kind of the Sharing Depot that was sort of like this thing that you could go to and get stuff. And I mean, there's a Play It Again Sports, a lot of those places that have secondhand sports equipment that you can go to and get stuff from. But I agree, like having some form of thing. Just to mention, Own the Podium was the thing that happened before the Vancouver Olympics. So that was, again, one of
these are not regular programs, right?
No. This was specifically because, okay, we're going to be hosting, here. So, and then, I mean, I'm not sure that a similar thing happened, but like South Africa's team getting into the World Cup qualifiers for the World Cup that was held in South Africa was another, kind of like very useful thing that I'm sure had something to do with the fact that, okay, well, we're hosting this event, and I'm sure enough money sort of flowed in to make it possible. But I agree, helping to democratize access is useful, and also helping to not cut funds. I think, one of my kids' friends is in an art school, and they're the conservative government here, provincial government here, is talking about I think reducing the number of special arts teachers and distributing them everywhere, and they actually had a protest, and like the entire school walked out and protested this thing, because it's like, well, this is a specialty art school, so if you remove the arts teachers, well, what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, no, I think people of that sort of ideology, they don't place any value on that. But, it's funny because they call themselves fiscal conservatives. But my view is that if someone is fiscal relates to economics, then you should have a basic understanding of economics, for fuck's sake, and understand what investment means and what ROI means.
ROI, absolutely. Yes.
I agree. Be, reasonable, efficient with your expenses, such that you're not wasting money. But that's usually not what happens. Things get cut. And I think getting back to the idea of what competitive advantage this gives us as a society, whether it's your city, your community, or broadly, and I'd say more importantly as a country, you have a populace who is much more engaged in sports You're going to be more energetic. You're going to have fewer health problems. There's less burden on the economy. You've got more energy. You can be more productive. You can be, you'll make more friends. The network effects that come from sport. So many times in my career, I have met very successful people who candidly are not necessarily the smartest people, but they've worked in professional sports or even just at a high level of non-professional before. And those people tend to be very successful in business.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's actually a correlation between kind of people who are very successful in sports who then go on to be very successful in life, and it's that competitiveness, right? It's sort of like developing that competitive spirit early on by being engaged in something that is meaningful to you.
It's competitiveness, it's discipline, it's your social network, which you leverage. There is evidence out there to suggest that exercise does actually make you smarter, and
sure.
Right? I've heard it even most simplistically mentioned as, obviously, if you're moving around, the blood circulation is happening more. There's more blood, more oxygen getting to your brain, and you can enrich your brain. It's completely positive.
Well, and even just those aspects of coordination, like your brain controls coordination as well as other elements of everything that you do, really, and and getting into a state to be able to do something consistently over and over and over and get better at it is a very transferable skill, right?
So it probably develops patience too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think there's such a strong argument for this. We've just solved it. I think what you're seeing, High Octane friends, is here that we've solved the issue for Canada as how we're going to get another 2 percentage points on our GDP. There you go.
Well, and the interesting thing is it's something that that doesn't necessarily have a partisan spin to it. Potentially in the arts, you could see that, like that art stuff. I'm a businessman, blah blah blah, for conservatives, but there's lots of conservative people that love sports. Maybe this is one element of like a strategy that, pick a party, I don't care, but like could use as a way of saying, look, we're going to, invest in developing our nation's, kind of competitiveness in the field of sport as a way of kind of, influencing other aspects of the society, for sure.
I think it's probably a good example of trickle-down economics.
Right. Yeah.
Like lots of good things, whereas that nonsense of like, well, just cut the taxes for the ultra rich so that they'll spend more and trickle down. That's been proven time and time again by reasonable economists that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a shit if, frankly, Ronald Reagan turns in his grave. That's pissing off some people. I don't care. I am pro people. I'm not. Maybe I spent long enough in the most egalitarian society on earth, I think, in Japan, but I think that's largely a very good thing. And it's probably no coincidence that we talked about Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese superstar who plays for the LA Dodgers now, that is arguably. Most people, I think, would not argue that he is the best player currently, but he's so well-rounded. He is both a big hitter and a great pitcher and an outfielder. Like, that is a triple threat. Like, I don't know anybody like that, and he's probably the best player of all time. And it's not lost on me. I don't think it's a coincidence. That says something about the Japanese. I think people like the Japanese, the Koreans, the Taiwanese. Some people throughout the Caribbean, right? I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's our kind of Canadian superstar here at the Blue Jays, he's from the Dominican, right? He's
born in Montreal.
Yeah. He's Canadian.
Yeah.
There. And he loves the city, loves the country, which is terrific. But I think some of those places, maybe in places like the Dominican, I've never been there, but unfortunately, there's some grinding poverty there. So what else are you going to do if you're going to stay out of trouble? You play baseball.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
some I'd love to learn more about that part of the world,
Yeah,
but
and then Jamaica and their track superstars, right? Usain Bolt and everyone else
right,
there. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because it's not just weather; it's because you don't. You, you,
Yeah, because all you need for running is a pair of shoes, really.
yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah,
But I mean, if you look at Japan, for example, and I think they are extremely disciplined as a people. They're hardworking people. They're careful people. And these are some important ingredients, even for somebody to become a professional athlete. And, to have that discipline and do that. I know kind of vicariously a little closer to home about that because one of my cousins is a former NHL player and he's currently playing for one of the Red Bull teams in Europe. Like last year, he was in Salzburg in Austria. And I think now he's in Munich. I haven't been watching closely, but he's a terrific hockey player. He played for years in the NHL, and I know that my cousin, because it's his son, so my second cousin is the hockey player, and my cousin is the same age as me. Um, so my cousin, the hockey player's name is Ryan Murphy, and his father Mark. I think in cases like that, you see the athlete, you see the end product, and it's great, and they made it into the professional leagues. But what you often don't see is the parents behind it. And I remember talking to Mark once about it. Actually, it was after Ryan had his first game back in Toronto. He'd been playing for the Carolina Hurricanes at the time, and his first time back in Toronto in front of family and friends. I was there too with my son, and his first goal in the NHL in Toronto were,
nice.
Like just nuts. And I remember talking to Mark, his father, and he said, "Look, I've only ever missed I think he said one game when he had the flu for years." And so you're there, you're disciplined, the family is there with you together.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably good for families too. Like how much opportunity has been lost because families are not there. They're not together. So,
yeah.
And maybe sports can kind of keep them together a bit, right?
Well, either that or hopefully, for people that unfortunately have lost parents, that maybe volunteering, like volunteering as a coach, oftentimes you can be that sort of parental figure for kids that maybe don't have the best environment kind of growing up, and then you can instill values that can help them with their development and guide them in some way, in a positive way, either that or even participating in Big Brothers Big Sisters and that sort of stuff where you could help a kid that really wants to advance themselves but just doesn't have the opportunity, could be a valuable way of contributing in some positive way for the benefit of your community, of that child. So
I'm sure lots of single mothers, for example, or single parents in general would love to have somebody take their kid out and help them with the sports and go games and everything so that they could just they're busy struggling to
and I mean even nowadays it's two parents both working. I know I feel bad that I have a hard time making it to my kids even cross country meets because he's because it's during the day and it's well I've got this, I've got that, but but actually he's just let me know that my oldest he's gonna try and go for a marathon in the spring. So wow. I was really? I'm not sure that he quite understands what's involved. It's oh, this long distance, but no, it's pretty intense, kid. But but for him, and maybe, and then that inspires me of if he's gonna do that, maybe I can work my way up towards. If I don't know that I can make a marathon at my age, but maybe a half marathon or a 5K or something, that inspires me to sort of, get off the couch and go out for a jog kind of thing as well. So.
Yeah, that's terrific. I gave up running a couple of years ago because it gave me an overuse injury in one of the hips, and so I'm just on that. Like, so now you and I have talked about this on previous episodes too. We both like to walk, right? So
yeah.
I like to do that. But my exercise now is that I was listening to this orthopedic surgeon and kind of who's become a health guru now. I can't remember her name, but she's highly qualified to talk about this. And I guess she was kind of suggesting that it's particularly for older. Once you get a little older, you got to be careful about your joints and stuff. So the impact of running is not a good idea. So what I do is I set my treadmill at an angle, 5 and 10 degree grade, and then I walk really fast for like 20, 25 minutes. That'll get your sweat going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Whatever you can do something. And then I really don't want to give up skiing. That will annoy me. But that's probably why I have the problem in part with my hip, is because my son bashed into me skiing about 5 years ago. I kept on telling him, please don't, follow me so closely. He was like always following me, and it's following so closely. I'm like, you don't know where I'm going to go. And then, of course, one day I went this way, and then he bashed into me. I was like, oh my God. But it's great to be able to go out and do sports with your kids.
Yeah, it's a great way to bond with them. Really, yeah. No, I had a similar thing of there were a bunch of kids and some parents playing soccer together at a school just down the street, and I went with my kid and we were playing, and of course the parents were European, and European dads play soccer at sort of a different level than
way better
than overweight Canadian dads. So so I had a bit of a sore knee for a period afterwards, and still working on.
Even though they tend to smoke like troopers, they smoke like troopers and drink wine. Hey, you play with a friend. Maybe I'll do that next month when I'm in Paris. It's like I'll go somewhere and like insert myself into a soccer game and embarrass myself. But that brings up a really good point. Is what do you do as an adult? How do you? It's harder to do a lot of things as an adult. I don't mean necessarily physically. It's just like with kids, you just plop them into some league, but as an adult, like how do you do it? Like if you say, okay, I want to be more active. I want to do sport. I want to play baseball, or I want to do play soccer or whatever. Like how do you just suddenly do that? Like,
well, yeah, I guess it depends on where you are. Like I know certainly when I was in college, there were just basically it was either ball hockey or like I forget if it was rollerblade hockey or just like running around with in your shoes hockey in the gym. But I joined that with I don't even know if I went with a couple of friends. I just sort of joined it, and it was great because I met a bunch of new people, and I got to run around and lose hockey games.
When you were in Buffalo, or when you?
That was in the University of Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that was a lot of fun. And then at MIT actually I joined the MIT Masters swim team, and then it was just sort of like as you were saying, busy. Like it was I think 6:30 to 8 every morning kind of thing. So then I was up and out, and like I'm not necessarily a morning person, but like getting up, jumping in the pool and swimming a bunch of laps in the morning was a great way to sort of like discipline me to get up and like actually work on my thesis afterwards. So
get the brain chemicals going. And,
yes. Yeah. And then even here, I think I joined a couple. I think when I was affiliated with the University of Toronto, I joined some like just summer sort of soccer teams, and it was fun to run around. And I think there certainly are different like things you can do. I think certainly through for Toronto, there's like parks and recreation. I think I can just go on, and for any of the different gyms around town, there will be a list of like sports teams you can just join up with. And I know certainly my neighbor has got a big thing of hockey gear that I see him dragging out to the car every once in a while, and he goes out and still plays hockey with his buddies. And so there are those things there to find it. And then my parents were playing pickleball for the longest time, and that's like the newest craze.
I know, I played it a couple of times with my neighbor.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's still taxing. It's a little less taxing than like.
No, and I mean, like there was an article about like the increase in like in injuries among older adults playing pickleball, and and I mean I've seen that too. My mom fractured a bone in her foot playing it, so it's not, you still have to sort of be careful, but it is, a useful thing. And then, I mean, I don't know if you would consider golf a sport, but but it is, I guess.
I guess it is a sport. It's not a particularly strenuous sport.
No, yes. But you do. But I mean, like the elite athletes, again, Tiger Woods has to work out to be able to, to hit that ball however long he hits it, a couple hundred yards. So.
He was the first one that I remember that was really kind of, fit and muscular.
Right. Yeah.
That was part of the reason for his success. He was just a really strong guy. Mm-hmm. But, you're giving me an idea. We were talking about, as you're an adult and doing these kinds of sports, and maybe we start a High Octane Friends sports league. If not a league,
I love
then
it.
We should have some sporting events, right? Like I just wrote that we could do ski trips, baseball. Yeah. Games.
Well, curling's a ton of fun, right?
Or cornhole, which I find hilarious.
Yes, in the summer, absolutely.
I always laugh, and this is a little bit crude. So, for the prudes on the call, I like when I was teenagers, cornhole had a completely different meaning, which had nothing to do with games.
Yeah, well, we just did a summer sports thing with the scouts, and one of them was bocce, and then my explanation to a bunch of Canadian kids of what bocce is, it's sort of like it's curling but on grass. So...
Yeah, it's Italian, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
BOCCI?
BOCC, I think so. I think someone else on the thread spelled it differently. I think BOCCE is the way I spell it, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see either way, right?
Yeah. No, I was going to say something else. What was it?
Well, I mean, anyway, we could do some sporting events with.
Sporting events. Yeah.
So that'd be amazing. Actually, I think, baseball. We could rent a diamond. Even something I've never done, but I want to do, which is not really a sport, although some people would argue with me, is ice fishing. I want to do.
Yeah.
You get hot, and it's all the heater in there. It sounds bizarre. And then you're out on the lake, frozen lake, and you don't have to go far. It's only an hour and a half north of Toronto, and you're there, for example. I could get into that.
Yeah. No, I remember what it was. Yeah, actually, at MIT, the other thing I did was touch rugby. So there's a bunch of South Africans would show up at like midweek. I think it was Wednesday on Killian Court, right in front of the big dome at MIT, and we just play touch rugby, like running up and down, and which is like surprisingly like athletic, because it's I mean. Rugby and soccer are the more athletic versions of football, and
because you're running more often, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. Because you're running back and forth, and then like if someone touches you, you got to put the ball down, and then the other team, or either someone else on your team or the other team gets it, and then and so it is a lot of running back and forth, a lot more continuous. So yeah.
I've never had much of an interest in football, so-called American or Canadian football. That doesn't interest me that. I mean, it was fun to play it when I was a kid, but to watch it, but I know people love it, and you probably did when you were in Buffalo watching the Bills, of course.
Yep,
But
yep. No. Well, and I played, right. I was on on the high school football team, and
did you? Oh,
that was a bit of like, I don't know if I in the end I end up hurting my knee, and it's probably going to come back and bite me, or it is biting me now. that
yeah, it's one of those sports where people get really injured,
yeah.
and I suspect part of that counterintuitively is that even though you've got all this equipment on, including the big helmets, like you're ramming into each other.
Yes.
And, it's a false sense of security. So there's more of that going on, and there are more injuries in football, American football, than there are in rugby, say.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're more aware, like you're not protected, so you're not going to completely crash. I find that kind of fascinating, right? It's a bit counterintuitive, but
yeah.
And there have been horrible injuries that have happened, and brain injuries, I guess, right?
No, all sorts. Well, yeah, there's a whole thing on CTE and football, and I mean there was one very unfortunate thing of a football player that committed suicide, and he shot himself in the heart because he was preserving his brain for them to study. But like CTE.
Well, there was also the terrible incident very recently at the Blackstone offices in New York. Remember the guy? He said the same thing. He was suicidal, and he came in and he shot up a bunch of people, killed a bunch of people, and that's what he said. He said, like, in his suicide note, please, study my brain. And he had been a football player, and he had that. What does he stand for again? Concussive.
Something encephalopathy. So yeah.
Yeah, the swelling of the brain, and
yeah, or the spaces increase in size, like or it's some sort of atrophy, I think, of the brain matter itself. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like I don't know. I think I wouldn't have my kid in that.
Yeah.
But not to bring down the mood of the thing. In general, I think.
Well, I think like this is. I think there are some. The good news is that at least there's awareness of this now, and and football has instituted these concussion protocols where they test. It's not just like it used to be like, oh, get back out there kind of thing, but now they test, and if you do have a concussion, like they keep you out. And I think it happened to Sidney Crosby, right? He was kept out for quite a while because he was still suffering the effects of a concussion or a series of concussions.
Yep. My cousin had it when he first went into the NHL. He got hit really badly, and he was out for a while. And I think it affected his career too, because he's on the smaller side relative to a lot of the NHL players, and so it kind of makes you a little bit gun shy, right? So it affects you. But yeah, I think.
But at least, as I was saying, there's awareness now, and they've even changed some of the rules in the kickoff, for example. They've adjusted it so that there's so that the one team only starts running after the ball is kicked or something like that. So it minimizes, at least for that one play, it minimizes some of the potentials of like people running at each other at full speed and smashing into each other. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it just reminded me of years ago. So my son was in Taekwondo for years.
Which is also, I mean, martial arts is another sport. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had him in that, and I think it's generally very good for you. But I remember once the master was having them as kids running around, and they were running around had them running around on all fours. And it's very hard when you're running around on all fours to keep your head up. And so they're running in all different directions. And like another kid and my son, they collided head to head. And I was angry. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, this is not safe. Don't do that. But generally I'm a big proponent. I am high on this idea now. We have to offline talk about maybe what kind of events we can do. I think it would be great. I mean, and just as a reminder to listeners, what High Octane Friends is about, other than listening to these podcasts. Yeah, I mean, well, we want people to take an idea out of it and at least just one gem every time. And maybe today's gem is it'll motivate you personally to get back involved in sports, or have your kids or whatever do that, or drag your spouse out. But as the name would suggest, we're really trying to get thinking, intelligent, and accomplished people, any or all of those things that people are or who have done. And so we also do events. So we'd love to have you reach out to us. If you have any ideas, you can also, of course, comment as we're building this thing. I don't know, we can have a big cornhole competition. That sounds like I said, the meaning was completely different. That's like, that's not an invitation to like, buggery, to be honest with you. But yeah, like any kind of sporting thing, I think would be fantastic. The word that comes to mind, the term is the beer league, with or without the beer.
Yeah.
Although I have a really good 0% Guinness. I know you don't drink, Trevor. Had these? Do you drink these non-alcoholic beers at all?
Yes. Yeah. No, I like the Heineken Zeros. Kind of my go-to because most bars have that. But I do definitely have. I bought a 6-pack of the Guinness non-alcoholic Guinnesses. I haven't cracked them open. I should give it.
I thought it was pretty good. I had it the other. The funny thing is, the non-alcoholic versions, I'm less inclined to finish the whole thing. There's you don't get the other effect, right? But that's presumably. I probably wouldn't drink that if I were just in a bar or restaurant by myself. It's kind of nice because you can kind of be undercover. You don't feel out of sorts, and you don't have to drink. You don't have to have the bad effects of that. But I thought it was interesting that just a regular, what is that, a 16-ounce can or whatever of the Guinness Zero, I didn't finish it all. Whereas if it was alcoholic, I would have a tendency to finish it and more. So I think that's a plus. Fewer calories.
Yeah, for sure.
Calories. That's another thing sports gives you, right? Like it's going to burn off calories.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, the health effects, the burning off the calories, like getting your mind, as I said, more in tune and ready for kind of the day. Like, I need to get back into it. I was jogging every morning, kind of either drop the kid off to school and then jog like, a couple kilometers around the block. And you have to get back into the spirit of your national animal on your shirt there. Yes.
The springbok antelope. By the way, I know I've bugged you about this before. I'll do it again. So the Latin name for the springbok antelope is marsupial, Antidorcus marsupialis. So audience, I was bugging Trevor that from here on in, his nickname should be Anti-Dorcas, because you're an anti-dork now. You're a recovery dork, MIT dork.
I would be less. I'm less anti-dork than I am pro-nerd. So MIT literally sells pocket protectors that say Nerd Pride. So
Nerd Pride, yeah. To me, it's a bit splitting hairs, but. I don't know if Harvardians are any better off, but whatever. We're here in Toronto now. Very cool, Toronto. Actually, I'm not in Toronto. I am in my cyberpunk penthouse, as you will see.
Yes.
Somewhere in Asia. I don't know exactly. It looks like a bit of a mixture of Shinjuku, Tokyo, and maybe. What is that area of? My brain is anyway part of Seoul.
Yes.
And I haven't been to Shanghai, so maybe it's a little bit of Shanghai thrown in there. It definitely got an Asian flair to it. I don't know. I remember when I lived in New York, and I remember I was saying to a coworker one day, I'm going down to Times Square and hang out in Times Square, and they couldn't believe it, like native New Yorkers, because they never go there.
Yes.
It's like they wouldn't be caught dead in Times Square. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it's exciting. I want to go down. It's kind of fun. And I guess I missed it from, like Blade Runner-esque, parts.
Yes, yes. No, there was a time when it was a little less, more seedy kind of thing. Pre
Yeah,
Giuliani. Apparently, Giuliani was the one that cleared it up
Julian. What's
before he
that?
went.
What's that Joker doing nowadays?
Oh boy.
Is
Well,
he in
he
jail?
got sued for like everything he owns because of one of these after effects of Trump won. So I don't know.
He was spreading some kind of law or
Well,
lie.
yes, yeah. I think it had to do with like the big lie in the election, and he said something on some public forum, and then
Oh,
whoever he said it about like sued him for everything he owns and won. So yeah.
that's interesting. So, he was probably kept out of jail, not criminally responsible, or, like he was perhaps pardoned by the president. But, that doesn't save you from civil litigation and getting sued, does it?
No, no, yeah.
Which gives us hope for, a few years from now. Like,
Well,
we'll see.
I don't know.
Uh,
I put my hope in the Blue Jays more than I put
I
my
was
hope.
just going to say, go Blue Jays. I was literally just going to say that. So,
Yeah.
maybe maybe that's the only good thing. If the Blue Jays do lose in the series to the Yankees, at least the Americans will feel better about themselves because like they need that sort of stuff. Well, I think we do as well, but like I think Canadians are a little bit. I do think Canadians are a bit more versatile as people, generally speaking. I genuinely believe that, and I think and even people from the northern states in the U.S. tend to be a little bit strong. I think climate has something to do with that. You're talking about sports and climate, outdoor sports. Like, you probably wouldn't have because you're from South Africa originally. But like for me, I remember like I lived out in the countryside for a while, and yeah, we had a pond out in our back, and just lace my skates up and go out and when it's like minus 25 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Canadians are kind of tough.
It was surfing when I was in growing
Surfing.
up. So yeah, just bring your surfboard or your boogie board out to the beach and surfing the waves. And I still love doing that. Like anytime I get anywhere near an ocean, I'll go right out there. And you don't need a board. You just kind of like you just catch the wave and you can surf. Just
Like body
surf
surfing
yeah,
with one of those things. I did that years ago. That was a great experience. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. I've traveled a fair bit, but this is like spectacular. There's a little village, I guess you'd say, on the west coast of Vancouver Island. It's very well surfed with the Pacific Ocean, Tofino, Tofino.
Okay. Yes, I've heard of it. Yeah.
I had some wealthy friends, and we flew out there in their private planes.
Oh my goodness.
A small group of us, and we flew out in 2 private planes. It was amazing. We went out, we did our own whale watching with the planes, and then we went into Tofino and we did body surfing. And it was like, yeah, I want to do that again. We should do that.
Yeah. No, I went. I had a work trip, and I sort of muscled a trip. It was down to Las Vegas, and I added an extra hop to go over to L.A. and stayed in a like just for a night just to see one of my friends that could be a potential customer, and stayed in a hotel right by the beach just so that I could wake up, run out on the beach, like go body surfing before I started my day. So yeah. So
where was it?
To say that I swam in the Pacific for the first time. So
yeah, I've been to Laguna Beach a couple of times, and that's like real surfer land.
Yes, yeah. I was Santa Monica, which I think is just a bit north of Venice Beach, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Venice Beach. That's fun. I was so annoyed with my son. I shouldn't tell my son. I was a bit annoyed with my son a few years ago when we were in LA and we went to Venice Beach together. And then that's they have Muscle Beach, and they have you walk the thing there, and it's kind of famous, and like you see the outdoor gym and stuff. And it was so stereotypically Southern California, and you see people like skateboards and roller skates, and like I just wanted to soak up more of that. And my son's like, get out of here. I'm like, why?
Well, and skateboarding, right? I mean, I think that was a great. I took an entrepreneur. Like it's even there's elements of inventiveness that come in. So like rollerblades were ice skates that you strap some wheels on, right? And I remember we had a entrepreneurship course, and we talked about user entrepreneurship, and so that's where, you know, like the person comes up with something, and the skateboard was a user entrepreneurship invention of surfers that didn't, you know, it was too cold to surf in the winter or whatever. They strapped some wheels to a board, and now you're surfing on the street. So yeah. So,
and snowboarding and all these other sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, there's even coming up with creative new ways of maybe adapting the sport to whatever constraints you have, right? Like what is that one indoors with the wall?
Squash.
Yeah. It's another thing that you can fit a squash court into kind of like any small building. Basically, you just need the walls. Yeah.
I remember, was it in the? I guess it was in the 80s. I was pretty young, but there was a TV show. I don't know if you ever saw that, and it was such a great TV show. I've been telling my son to try and find it and watch it because he would love it, and he loves cars and stuff. Called Miami Vice.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, Miami Vice was so great, but yeah. I remember seeing an episode or two where, and I think if I remember correctly, it might have been in the introductory scenes every time, and there was this sport called Highlight, which I think is spelled Jai and then LAI, Highlight. I think it's a Latin American thing originally, which makes sense. A lot of Latin American influence, of course, in Miami. And there's sports like that are just like, if I remember correctly, it had some kind of a like curved thing, and it was throwing the ball. I don't know.
But, well, you know, yeah, and there's even like regional sports. So when I was in Ireland, hurling is huge there, and that's this sort of like I think to me is it roughly kind of lacrosse equivalent, because like there's lacrosse here, and I didn't know about lacrosse growing up because it's a North American thing, but yeah,
it's indigenous originally, I believe.
Yeah, native, yeah.
Actually, I think we have two national sports. One is hockey, which we're very famous for, but the other is lacrosse.
Oh, okay.
National sport of Canada, but I think hockey also is, but definitely lacrosse is. And a lot of kids play it in. Who play hockey play lacrosse in the summer.
In the summer, right.
Got kids in my neighborhood. I just walked by them the other day, and actually it was two of them and their dad with lacrosse sticks.
Yeah.
You don't want to get hit with a lacrosse ball, man.
No, those are pretty tough.
Yeah, but cool. Okay, so I think we're almost at time. What time are we at here?
Yeah. No, just past an hour. So.
Okay, because I don't remember when we started. But anyway, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We've got some more. We've got some guests coming up. We recorded a couple with guests. We'll be doing more of those going forward, but we haven't rolled them out yet. And we will be doing that. So look forward to that. And of course, if you do have any suggestions on topics you'd love for us to discuss, or if you'd like to suggest yourself as a guest, again, if you have an interesting story or expertise, please reach out to us, and we would love to have you on if it's something that makes a lot of sense. Thank you again. Thanks, Trevor, and we'll see you next time, eh?
Awesome.
Very Canadian.
Go Blue Jays.